I'd like to welcome you to the Utah Wildlife Board meeting today. It's being held at the Eccles Wildlife Center here in Farmington. The meeting's also live streamed, so you can watch it on YouTube. The Monroe Canyon wildfire currently burning in southern Utah has prompted a need to convene an emergency meeting of the Wildlife Board for today, August 1st, 2025. The purpose of the meeting is for DWR to present potential big game and black bear permits, surrender, and extension options for hunters, which fall outside the current administrative rule, which would require board approval. These recommendations are being brought to the Wildlife Board due to hunter access and safety concerns for the Monroe Movement Unit. Okay, first, have you all had a chance to look at the agenda? Can I get a motion to accept the agenda? It's been moved by Kent and seconded by Paula. All in favor, raise your hand. Kent? You good? All right. We don't have them online, do we? No, no, Chris. All right, the motion passes. This time we'd like to introduce some of the new board members as well as the regular board members. Now that we have permission to go ahead and have this emergency meeting, we'll start at this end.
Bob Christensen. I'm representing the Northeast region.
I'm Ryan Fouts, representing the Northern region.
Paula Richmond, Southern region.
Kent Johnson, Southeast region.
And I'm Gary Nielson. I'm representing the Central region, also chairing the board. At this time, we'd like to turn the time over to Todd Adams, the Deputy Director, for the swearing in of the new board members.
Is that better? Can you hear me now? Mr. Chairman and members of the board, you probably heard me already, but it's good to be here with you. Executive Director Joel Ferry wishes he could be here, but he had another commitment today. So I've been asked to come in and swear you in, not swear at you, but swear you in. So we're glad to do that today. So what I'd like you two gentlemen to do is stand up, raise your right arm to the square, and repeat after me as we take the oath. And then I'll have a document for you to sign. So I state your name. Having been appointed by Governor Spencer J. Cox and confirmed by the Utah State Senate as a member of the Wildlife Board, do solemnly swear that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Utah, and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity. Congratulations, man. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, we'll now go to the reason we're having the meeting. Oh, yes, thanks. Also, we'd like to excuse Chris Robinson and Justin Oliver. They will both be sworn in at our next board meeting. We'll now go to the point that we've met together for the Monroe Mountain Hunts, and we'll turn the time over to Lindy Varney, who's the licensing coordinator.
Okay, thank you for convening today. I am the licensing coordinator here for the Division of Wildlife. And is that it? Okay. So I will be presenting our recommended relief options for our hunters that have been affected by the fire on the Monroe unit. Okay, so this Monroe Canyon fire was discovered back on July 13th and has been burning ever since. As of this morning, it has burned over 55,000 acres. Since the time I started this presentation and we started contacting you guys about this meeting, it's doubled about 20,000 acres from Wednesday to today. So it's a continuing, just increasing. And it's only about 7% contained as of this morning. The fire closures that have been issued by our land management agencies will impact over about 1,200 of our hunters. So a little bit of background, the current closure areas do block off access to about 67% of our mule deer habitat and about 72% of our elk habitat. It's a little bit different than was on the memo. This has been updated as of this morning with the new 20,000 acres have been burned. So, and it's about 50 to 60% of the entire Monroe unit now. As of right now, this closure order is intact until October 31st, 2025. For our elk, over 80% of the animals are located within the closed areas during most of these hunting season, especially during the archery, early rifle, and the muzzleloader seasons. And for our deer, about 80% of the animals stay within those zones that are currently closed during the archery muzzleloader seasons as well. Some of the public access has been restricted because of those closures, and as of right now, it's limited to 4 U.S. Forest Service roads that are connected, that are open to the area, and that's the Pole Canyon Road, the Kingston, the Cottonwood Canyon, and the Dry Creek Road. But there are talks about closing some more access because of this morning, but they're not in place. And, you know, we do have Vance and Kendall and Teresa and Kevin online, and they can talk more to that because they are directly involved with all those questions. The other 5 access routes are closed because of these land management agency closures. So the hunts that are affected by this fire that's going on is our general season buck deer hunts for the archery and muzzleloader seasons, our dedicated hunters, because their hunt does start with the archery season, and then our limited entry bull elk hunts, and that's the archery, the early any legal weapon, the muzzleloader, and our mid-season. These are all the hunts that are occurring during those closures. And we also have our limited entry black bear hunt. It did open up this morning, but they are unable because of the closures. They're unable to go out hunting. I just want to point out that in these season dates, this also does include our related vouchers and permits. So like our conservation permits, our LOA, our landowner association programs, and our general season landowner permits. Those are all encompassed in those season dates when I talk about those. So just wanted to point that out. Okay, so moving on to our recommendation. Because of the uniqueness and the intensity of the fire, the DWR is requesting that the board give hunters the following options. So we wanted to kind of give them a multiple of options, not just one. The first one is to still allow the permit holder to go out and hunt where access is available. There are, you know, the southern part of the unit that is still open, and we wanted to give the hunters the flexibility if they still wanted to go hunt it. The second option is to allow the permit holder to surrender their permit up to the day before their hunt starts. So if it's the archery, they need to turn it in by August 15th because the hunt starts on the 16th. If they do, they will get all of their points reinstated plus 1 for the current year. The waiting period would be waived, and we would provide a refund minus the $25 handling fee. And the third option that we're recommending is to allow the permit holder to request their hunt to be extended to the 2026 hunting season. In order to choose this option, and to be eligible, they must surrender the permit into the division before their hunt starts and notify us in writing that's the option they want to go. Just so then we know what their intents are. I just kind of wanted to, when I talk about dedicated hunters, I just kind of wanted to explain what their options meant if they were to extend or to surrender their permit or COR. So if they were in the first year of their COR, which would be they drew out this year in 2025, they can still surrender out of the program. They would receive all of their points back, including one for the year, and minus the $25 handling fee. Or they could extend their COR into another year. So essentially, they'd be in the program for 4 years. But they just wouldn't go out hunting this year. If it's their second year, they can still surrender it if they don't have 2 harvests, which is kind of impossible just because it is their second year, but we just wanted to clarify that. They would receive 2/3 of their points back and 2/3 of the refund of the COR fee, minus the $25 handling fee. So if they drew out with 3 points, they would get 2 points back and such. Or they can extend it another year. If this is their third year, so their last year of their COR, they still can surrender if they don't have the 2 harvests. So if they didn't harvest the first and second year, they can still have this option. And they will receive 1/3 of their points back. So if they drew out with 3, they would just get 1 of their points back and a refund. So 1/3 of the refund minus the $25 handling fee. Or they could extend another year if they didn't have the 2 harvests. And then an exception for our bear hunter, it only needs 1 permit that we had for the fall hunt on the Monroe. And we would allow this permit holder to select one of the first 3 options. So either to go hunt, get their points reinstated, or to extend. But they would need to notify us in writing and turn it in by August 8th, even though their hunt started this morning. The DWR is also requesting the flexibility from the board to extend the previous discussed options to additional hunts if the conditions on the Monroe unit don't improve. So the ones that I listed in the very first, the archery muzzleloader and the early any legal weapon in mid, any legal weapon for elk, we're requesting those 3 options for them. If things don't improve, we would like to ask the board to give us the flexibility to allow those 3 options for our any legal weapon hunt for general season deer, so the late October hunt, our limited entry buck deer, that's in November, so that's the late muzzleloader hunt on a general season unit hunt, and then our late limited entry bull elk hunts. And then also our general season antlerless hunts that are in October and our general season antlerless deer hunt. That one is for depredation issues, the doe deer. So that is a little bit of different boundaries. And right now that is not affecting it. They just wanted me to point out that is a depredation hunt, but it's on the list just in case the fire gets out of control. And we have the flexibility to give those options to them as well. And that is it. Just wanted to let you know that I do have biologists here. Kent Hershey's here to help with some of the biology questions, along with Vance, Teresa, and Kendall online. So they can help with those sides. I can help with the admin side. So we're all here to answer any questions you may have.
Well,
Any
can I
questions
start?
from the board? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. I guess the first question I'll ask is with option 3 and then the extending for the dedicated hunters, how will that affect the draw in future years or subsequent, like for sure for 2026? What's that going to do and how's that going to affect the draw if that option is
Yeah, so
taken?
we talked about that when we talked to Vance. What they would do is still make the recommendations for 2026 for elk and for general season deer. And how many people extended, we would minus that off the recommended permits for 2026. So if 50 permits were not approved, but recommended for Monroe next year for elk, and 20 people extended, we would then just allow 30 to go through the draw.
Another question, as this fire burns and it's getting closer to the Fish Lake unit, is the division asking this permission for other units as well if this blows up and gets way worse, or is this going to require another meeting?
That would require another meeting. This is just for the Monroe unit itself.
Okay.
Couple questions for you. So what's the collar data showing that the animals are currently doing on the mountain?
So we'll split it up with deer and elk. So we do just have mostly females, so the males could be doing a little bit different stuff, but should be pretty representative. Most of the elk, there are some on the north half of the mountain, or north, I'd say even quarter of the mountain, that is kind of where the fire is burning to. A lot of the elk have already circled back and they're actually in the burnt zone. But we haven't seen any mortality associated with them. For the deer, the majority of the animals are on that north half in the closed zone. There are quite a bit down south on the Forest Sheep Plateau, so there are some that are accessible for those who choose to hunt that south area, and it's still open. There are animals down there according to the collar data.
That was my other question, if you've seen any mortality from it, but not yet. How about like fawns and?
No, it's certainly possible, especially the adults, they get out of it. They know how to get out pretty good. And they actually, we'll often see them circle back and use areas, and they'll find pockets in the burnt area that they like, and they'll go back to it. Fawns, we may see some mortality. We don't have any neonates collar down there, so we can't speak directly to it. We will have our fawn classification data this fall that Vance will do. And it'll show up there. If there was a major effect of those fawns, we'll be able to pick it up there, and we'll be able to adjust permits next year accordingly.
Thank you.
Lindy, will the amount of permits available for the draw be known before the draw on this one, so that people know what they're getting into? Like, 'cause I know they're worried, well, if they slide them all next year,
Yeah.
how's that going to affect the tags? And will we know, or will we just put in for a hunt there's only 3 tags?
Yeah, so no, it will be just like currently right now, we put out our proposals when the application opens, but they won't know the final number of what's approved, but they will show them like what it is and how many extended and how, like what will go through the draw. So we'll be very transparent on it. So then people know how many permits potentially could go to that unit.
Thank you.
Can you tell me, or tell us, how many general deer permits there are, elk and then bear? In
Yeah.
terms of permit numbers on the unit?
So for general season deer, and this is for all seasons, there was a little over 1,100, so 1,130. For archery elk, there was 21. For early and illegal weapon, there's 9. Then we have the muzzleloader, which was 12. Then the mid-season, any legal weapon, there's 25. And then the multi-season, there's 2. And then the late, any legal weapon, there's 14. Late archery, there's 8. And then there's 1 bear tag. So it's a little over 1,200 total permits that if we did every species that's on that list, for the first recommendation, not the flexibility, would be around 1,200. Oh, just kidding, no. If we did every hunt on Monroe, it's a little over 1,200. It's like 1,218.
Maybe you said that, but it includes cow permits.
Yes, that includes
Yeah.
the cow. Yep.
Okay.
And there's only 30 cow elk tags and 15 antlerless deer tags.
Lindy, we received a letter from a gentleman that had been up on the mountain scouting and saw how dry it was. And then when the fire started and there was like 2 days left to be in time to turn in your tag to not get penalized, how are we going to treat those kind of people? I'm assuming there's probably been a couple more that have already turned in their tags.
Correct. Yeah, we've had a few already people surrender their elk and general season deer tag. We would give them the same options. We would still send them the email notifying, of this board meeting and what was approved. And then we would call them and let them know and treat them the same. So they would still be able to, whatever you guys approved, have those options.
Let me throw out one more scenario.
Yeah, no,
I
you're good.
apologize. So you've got either like a multi-season elk tag,
Mhm.
and that starts here pretty quick with the bow hunt. And let's say worst case scenario, disaster abounds, and it stays closed clear through almost all of the hunts. And because they hadn't surrendered their tag, would that, are they just out of luck on that? Or would we look at that a little bit just because
Yeah.
nobody expected it to impact everything?
As of right now, the way that we're proposing is they would have to turn it in before the archery season started. Because that's when their hunt starts, even though they get all the seasons. But that's the way we're proposing it, just because, we were wanting people not to go out and hunt and then have the option to extend. If they went to hunt the southern end and then didn't see anything and then turn it into us after the fact. So we made the call saying you have to turn it into us before, so then we can address it and get things taken care of and know the exact numbers before hunts start.
So my other question, and you may not know this, the nature of a closed area, like, is it the road's closed, or everybody has to stay out, or you could like walk up a canyon that's on a clear the other end that's not anywhere near active fire and be okay? Or I mean,
I don't know
kind of the
that, but
closed rule?
I bet Vance has a good idea since he's the one that's been working closely. I don't know if Vance wants to help answer that question, or Kendall.
Yeah, I can answer that question. Most of this land are closed by the federal agencies that manage it, and it is closed to access, period. So they'll obviously use the roads as the venue to close the area, but the area is closed, so you cannot walk in or drive in.
Okay, thank you.
I got one
So a
question.
follow-up question to that, maybe, is there any indication how long after the fire is controlled they would open up the access to foot travel or horseback or whatever? Obviously, I've spoken with a couple of Forest Service employees, and they said that like the roads, they'll go in and they'll cut anything dead standing that could be fallen on the road and create a hazard for people driving before they open the roads. But like a general opening, do you know how long that would be after the fire's controlled?
Can I go ahead and answer that question? All indicators that I get is that even once the fire is out, say the fire's out in 2 weeks, they anticipate the area being unsafe, and they won't tell me an exact time, but for weeks or months that it will take them to make the area safe again. They have a lot of equipment and a lot of traffic by maintenance and firefighting equipment going up and down roads. And so they have said that they'll open it up as soon as it's safe, but it will take a lot more time than most people realize to open it back up. Again, that's kind of the best estimation we can give.
Thank you.
Just a follow-up question to what Kent asked early on was with the flexibility with the fire getting close to the fish lake. So with the flexibility part of the proposal, then if I understood right, then we're just talking Monroe, and we couldn't extend that to the fish lake. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, this is
Okay.
just for the Monroe. This
Okay.
fire is none other fire that we've ever seen in the last decade or so. It's like the perfect storm that has all the elements. And, we've seen fires almost every year that have burned more acres, but not to this, where this one's completely different. It's a different beast. And so that's why we're coming before you guys. So.
Just also another question on the just so I had that correct, I wrote down 80% and 70%, 80% on buck deer area and 70% on limited entry bull elk. Is that the area that's been burned and will propose to be closed? Did I understand that correctly, or was I have new hearing aids, so.
No, you're good.
Sorry.
So, yeah, so and you can take it, Vance, too. I was just, yeah, he's the one that gave me the number, so we'll let Vance answer that question.
Sure. That percentage is the area of animals currently estimated to be within the closed area. So not the burned area, not the actual area that's burned, but the area that's closed to access.
Okay, just a follow up there, is the division looked at like the concentration of these tags that are still there, where these animals, I guess my point is, if I had a tag, what kind of opportunity am I going to have with 80% of those animals in the closed area? And what likely will that be, especially 1,100 general deer tags?
Currently, good question. Currently, if these closures stay as is, that severely limits their access to land and to the number of animals that are out there. How many people take advantage of this and turn their tags in is a hard thing to know. And this boundary may change in a month, right? Or in October for the general rifle hunt. It could shrink. I assume the closed area is going to shrink significantly, but that's, an estimated guess.
Yeah, Ryan, I just wanted to add, so that's exactly why we're proposing the different options. We don't, if people like hunting that south end that is open and, it doesn't have the concentration of animals as the north end, but if that's where they want to hunt and they want to give it a try, we want to give them that option. If they feel it's too much and their area they typically hunt is affected, they can get their points back, they can extend it to next year, whatever they think's best. So that's why we're proposing the multiple options and let the hunter decide.
Yeah, I might also just add that the federal agencies, with the closure, I don't, with what Vance was saying, I don't think he could get probably a clear answer from them, because they probably don't know yet either themselves, until it just depends on what the fire does and what the conditions are out there and when the closures will be lifted. So, and that could vary depending on day or the week. So it's depending on safety.
Do we have any other questions from the board? All right. I will entertain a motion. Oh. I thought there was no public on this one. Yeah, it's up here. I didn't know. Okay. Yeah, let's allow it. Is there anybody that's here from the public that has a question? Would you come to the mic and state your question, please? Please state your name.
Hi, my name's Ronald Brown. I just wondered, I know this is just about the Monroe unit, but I drew a Dutton tag, and I emailed you guys last night, and half the unit is closed right now because of this fire. Is anything going to be taken into consideration for that? The elk moving into burn areas, all the hunters concentrated into one area on the Dutton.
I wasn't aware that we had any closures on the Dutton. I thought you were just mostly the Monroe.
I hope I'm wrong, but I read that, and I can't tell you where.
And I'm not positive but
do we have anybody from Vance, or?
Yeah. So I've been attending most all the fire meetings here. I'm not aware of any closures on the Dutton right now.
So for you to have a Dutton tag, if the elk decide they want to travel and get out of the smoke, it could be a really good tag. Any other questions from public or anybody that's here that would like to ask? Right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. Oh. All right, so we'll turn it over to the board for board discussion. Speak freely.
I think with the proposal, I think it's pretty good idea to, what the division has proposed, to help those hunters out. I like all three options. I think it's a good way to address the situation, the concerns that some of those hunters have out there with their permits. And there was one exception I was thinking of, or one addition, and I cannot think of what that is. Maybe it'll come to me in a minute.
I as well like the options. We thought about this a lot when we knew it was coming, and a typical option for the division would be to give you your points back and but there's a lot of people that weren't at max points, and there's a lot of our draws that are at max points, and so even if you drew it this year with max, doesn't mean you'll get it next year, because people change units. And so I was glad, I liked seeing all three options, and I think to give the hunters the choice, because it is an unusual situation, and the fire has been devastating, but for them to be able to choose their future is by far the best way to handle it, and then they'll just have to deal with whatever they choose and move forward. So I thought that was great, and all three options, even giving your preference points back if you drew dedicated and stuff, I thought that was very thoughtful and very thought out. And it's one time where I've seen the division actually say, okay, if this happened to us, what would we like to see happen? What would be fair? What would be the right thing to do? And so I was glad to see these options.
I agree. I like that the division has narrowed this to one unit. And that was kind of why I asked the question, to make sure of that. Because we don't want to set a precedent where we just, okay, I don't want my tag, but I want to kick it to next year because there's a fire on an adjacent unit. I like how the division narrowed that to one unit. I like the options and how well thought out it is, and giving people an option of what they want to do, not just here's what we're going to do and you like it or lump it.
I agree with all that's been said, and I do appreciate, there's a lot of people that have been on the ground really thinking this out. A lot of calls have been fielded, a lot of people really just meeting together and trying to figure out what the best options are. That's on local level, that's, up the division on the higher level. So I'm really grateful for all the time and efforts that have been put into this. I like 100% the options that are provided. I think that takes care of all the hunters' issues. In my mind, we've heard some that want to just close completely, but I also feel like that may not be fair to people that actually want to have the opportunity to hunt and maybe have some areas that they enjoy hunting in that's not part of the closed access area. So I don't feel like on the other end, it's not fair to just say, no, you can't hunt, period. So I feel like this really covers most scenarios, give the choice to the hunter, let them decide what they want to do from there. I do feel like going forward, where this is out of the normal, obviously. This is not something that comes up every year. However, if it does happen again, it might be nice to have some criteria to follow in the future to say, here's what we need to see happen to come to a situation where we would offer these opportunities again. So I don't know if we want to put that on the action log or just put it to the division to look into that, to give us some proposals. Do you think that requires action log, Lindy, or is that something you're already looking at?
Either or, but Director Peck has actually already asked me to do that because of this. So we're already looking at creating a new rule guidelines, so then we have the criteria. So we aren't calling emergency board meetings. So Director Peck's already asked me to do that. But if you'd like to put it on there, you can, but he's already taken that initiative. So.
Okay, well, I trust that you guys are on it and probably won't need to do action log for that. So thank you for thinking forward on that. So I think that sums up most everything that I've thought on that. I I just really wanted to say thank you to everybody on the ground, everybody from the bottom on up that's worked on this to get it where it's at.
Yeah, I appreciate all the comments from the board. I feel bad for, geez, I talked to a personal friend that the property loss that's happened as well. They 2 years in building a cabin and it got a call from the sheriff and it's gone. Complete loss. Ironically, he also had 29 points and drew the muzzleloader tag. So double loss there. I mean, that's pretty tough. I understand that the federal government is kind of controlling most of this because they're in charge of most of this land and the closures. And we have to do that. And then, you know, in terms of grazing displacement, I'm sure there were permits on that mountain and they've had to all come off. That's going to impact a lot of people financially in a lot of ways. I know this is a moving target. I just would want to make sure that, and I'm sure the division's going to do this, that there's a ton of information out there in terms of this progresses, because we don't know how far this fire is going to go, how long these closures may or may not take place. And so people who have drawn tags can just make good calculated decisions based on the information that's available. And that comes through communication, right? So if we're making sure that they all have the information right up until the day their hunt starts, they can determine whether they want to do that or turn the tag back in or pursue. I do want to applaud the division for getting this out quickly. I think this is a fair proposal to all parties involved. So thank you for that.
As far as getting word out, wait, is there going to be like put it online? I know you're going to contact the people individually about their decision and stuff like that, but as far as the progression of what's happening, because if we just have to rely on the news, that's pretty,
Yeah.
it's a weak account of what's really happening.
Yeah, so in regards to communication with the hunters that this is affecting, if you guys approve options, we'll be contacting them directly through email. I'm pretty sure we can work with outreach and have more information about updates on the fire and work with outreach on that to communicate more through that way as well.
Okay, so would outreach like just have a little section on the division webpage that says, hey, here's what's happening on Monroe as you consider to make decisions?
Yep, Kevin's got his hand raised. It looks like he might have an answer to that one.
Yeah, Lindy, the Forest Service does a pretty good job of keeping for the Fish Lake National Forest. They're putting out daily updates and sometimes updates multiple times a day. I would recommend that in the email that we send to the hunters, we give them the link to that web page so that they can then take the initiative to keep themselves informed. That will be the best place to find information. So rather than have to come through us to get there, let's give them a link to go directly to the information that the Forest Service is putting out at least daily right now.
Thank you. That actually, I think will cover it and work great.
We'll make that change. So love it. Thank you.
I'd also like to recognize that Chris Robinson has joined us online. We wondered, Chris, if you have any comments or questions at this point. You will not be able to vote on this one where you've not been sworn in, but do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any. I'm listening attentively, and I'm apologetic that I wasn't able to be there on time. I miscalculated how long it would take me to get back into civilization.
Okay, you're
But
good.
it sounds like you've got some three great options that give people, the hunters, a choice.
I think we're all in agreement on that, and thank you. Anything else from the board? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the division's proposal with regard to relief on the Monroe unit as presented.
No, I'll second that.
Motion made by Kent, seconded by Bob. All those in favor? We'll start down here.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Is there anything else we need to do at this time? What is the date? It's not the 31st, it's not that late. Okay, our next board meeting will be held here on August 21st. And for that, for now, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion that we adjourn, please.
Okay, motion made by Paula,
Second.
seconded by Kent. Wildlife Board emergency meeting is adjourned.